Stage 3, which is initiative versus guilt. Children are rapidly developing between 3 to 5 years old. This is the time that you see children sometimes can be aggressive in both of their actions and behavior. Children have more opportunities to interact with their peers at school. Children are provided with opportunity to explore their interpersonal skills through initiating activity among their peers. If given opportunity, children develop a sense of initiative and feeling secure about their abilities. However, if those tendencies are stopped either through criticism or control, that children can develop a sense of guilt. For example, if parents punish their child or control the initiative too much, then children are at risk for developing guilt. The virtue that develops in this stage is purpose. Erikson stated that some guilt is necessary. Otherwise, children will not know how to self-control. Children can develop a sense of purpose and worth if a healthy balance of initiative and guilt is achieved. Erikson's fourth stage is in industry versus inferiority. Industry in this stage is referring to competence. The biggest event at this stage is entry into school. Children are learning about a lot of new things at school. Learning also happen outside of school that can happen among peers. Successful experience will give children a sense of industry, a sense of competence and mastery, and children will also gain a great confidence from their peer group. Success at this stage will lead to virtue of competence. If initiative is restricted by parents or teachers, then children may begin to feel inferior and doubting their own ability. Some failure may not necessarily be bad. It can actually develop some modesty. The fifth stage is identity and identity diffusion, or role confusion. This developmental stage occurs during adolescence, usually around between 12 to 18 years old. During this stage, adolescents are searching for a sense of self through exploring personal value, beliefs, and goals. Erikson suggested that if there are actually two identities that are involved in this stage, the sexual and occupational stage. Sexual and occupational identities. Physiological changes that happen during this time, and adolescents are actually developing new bodies and experiencing unfamiliar sexual urges. Erikson states that adolescents may feel comfortable about their body, and they need to grow into that changes. Success at this stage will gain the virtues of fidelity. Fidelity is able to commit to oneself and accepting others even though there may be ideological differences. Failure at this stage can lead to role confusion, where they're not sure what they want to do. When they grow up, they're also unsure about themselves and their place in the society. Erikson stated that if parents pressure their adolescent into an identity, that it can actually lead to rebellion or establishing a negative identity and feeling unhappy. Intimacy versus isolation is the sixth stage of psychosocial development. This stage takes place during young adulthood period at approximately 18 to 40 years old. During this stage, major conflict is forming intimate, loving relationship with other people. Now, this is a long developmental stage. During this stage, people begin to share ourselves with others. People are exploring relationship with others other than a family member. Successful completion of this stage can result in a happy relationship and a sense of commitment, safety, and care. These relationships will enhance one's own identity and further growth of personality. On the other end of the spectrum, avoiding intimacy and fear of commitment will lead to isolation and loneliness. The virtue of this stage is love. Stage 7 is general relativity versus stagnation. General relativity refers to interest in establishing and guiding the next generation. This stage usually happens between 40 to 65 years old. People are thinking about, leaving your own mark at this time, and they're thinking about leaving their own mark on the world through child rearing or through work. It's leaving legacy behind for the later generation. By being involved through work, the community, people actually develop a sense of being a part of the larger picture. Success at this stage will lead to a feeling of usefulness, accomplishment, and feeling of leaving a mark in the world. On the other end of the spectrum, failure to contribute leads to stagnation, self-absorption, and boredom. People may feel disconnected from the world and the community and the society as a whole. The virtue at this stage is care. Stage 8, integrity versus despair. So this is the final stage of the psychosocial development. This stage actually begins at the approximate 65 years old and ends at death. People begin to contemplate at their own accomplishment and integrity. Integrity in this stage actually refers to acceptance of the limitation of life and being part of a larger history. People who reflect on their life and regret not achieving their goals will experience feeling of despair. Erikson believes that if people see their life as being unproductive, that this will lead to depression and hopelessness. Success at this stage will lead to wisdom. So wisdom allows people to look back at their life with a sense of closure without fear to accept death. Erikson believed that late life needs to be a good balance of integrity and despair. And the virtue of this last stage is wisdom. Criticism on psychosocial theory. So some of the strengths that are within Erikson's work is the ability to tie together the importance of psychosocial development across the entire lifespan, which is something that's not done by other theory. Erikson also has widened psychoanalytic theory that gives a broader perspective view. Some of the weakness that Erikson's theory is based on loose connection or observation. Erikson's observation are mostly interpretation and difficult to evaluate. There is also a lack of empirical evidence that suggests that one's psychosocial stage influences personality at a later stage. Application of Erikson theory is still applied today in solving problems such as adolescent identity crisis. Counselors still use Erikson's work today to help young people to form a coherent identity to make a successful and personal and occupational decision. Adults can also use Erikson's theory with child rearing and guiding them through development. Educators can also use psychosocial development theory to guide children at different stages. So I would like the students to stop watching the presentation for a moment, and I would actually like the students to watch the TED Talk by Dr. Arnett and come back to the presentation when they're done watching the video. I won't be playing this video during the presentation, but I do want students to watch this TED Talk on their own. However, I will be summarizing the video for you guys just so you guys can get an idea. So this TED Talk was done by Dr. Jeffrey Arnett and Dr. Arnett states that in today's age, it actually takes a much longer time to finish education, find a stable job, and get married. People back in the day, used to go into job force much earlier and get married earlier and emerge into adulthood at a much earlier time. Dr. Arnett states that the Fourth Revolution actually has changed the economy and led to more education, longer time in school. Sexual revolution allows sex life without marriage, and women's movement allow women to postpone marriages and pursue career. Dr. Arnett suggests that there should be a new stage of emerging adulthood. Dr. Arnett stressed that young people should actually enjoy this time and really pursue what they want and not rush into adulthood. Dr. Arnett suggested that people should really enjoy emerging adulthood. As part of the presentation, I do request students to watch this video and then come back to the rest of the presentation, as we were going to be doing a discussion on this video. So the theory of emerging adulthood was based on a research that was done by Dr. Jeffrey Arnett. This research was based on involved 300 Americans between the age of 18 to 29 of various ethnic group, social class, and geographical regions. There is a question that whether this is a worldwide phenomenon. So, based on what we've heard from Dr. Arnett's TED Talk, we know that emerging adulthood is noted among young American people. The culture has been adjusted and people are staying in school longer, joining the workforce at a later time. And because the culture has shifted, does that mean a new developmental stage should be also created? Or do you think that psychosocial developmental theory should be fluid and be adjusted as time goes on? I would like the students to think about that and write a discussion post on this topic.
No.
At the end, I would like to conclude this presentation with a quote from Erikson. He said, in the social jungle of human existence, there's no feeling of being alive without a sense of identity. Erikson's theory has such a large impact on our education system and developmental psychology. His theory shapes how the society shapes a person's identity and how that identity shapes the next generation. Erikson really emphasized on the life cycles and the cogwheeling from a society level influencing the identity of an adult and how that adult can affect the children. Erikson's theory reconceptualized later life, and I really find that Erikson's theory really fascinating, and I hope that this lecture has inspired you. Thank you so much.